All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into some sports updates, a little bit of sports updates for you to keep you guys apprised of what's going on behind the scenes. I talk a little bit about the Kevin James, Matt Taylor Instagram movie PR situation that we've been tracking for months now. And I get into a sort of a potpourri of funny things that happen at the farmhouse here, at the motherland, the dungeon that I deal with on a regular basis that I think are very funny and enjoyable for everybody to also enjoy, to be a part of as well. All that plus a cage fact coming up right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti, the show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons in everything, and we have a good time doing it. Hope everybody had a good week. It was actually a little warmer here in New Jersey this week. The yard got sloppy because the snow melted and it was muddy and nasty. So still difficult, trekking the terrain in the backyard when I'm walking the dog, when I'm walking Randy, because when it was snow and ice on the hill, I was sliding down like an animal. And now that it's muddy, still slippery, but also if I fall, now I'm ruining clothes. Randy's getting all dirty. He's a white dog in mud. That's a recipe for disaster. So we're navigating, but otherwise, a little bit warmer here, been nice. I hope it was warmer and nice for everybody else as well. Productive week work-wise for Spearhead. Still getting after it, still trying to build relationships and connections and get in the right rooms to get those clients. So nothing too crazy to update you on in that world. What else we got going on? No hotline calls this week. If you feel compelled to give a hotline call at any moment, 202-670-1114. I've been putting the hotline number as my contact info when I sign up for bullcrap. So I'm hoping some solicitor calls the number and leaves a entertaining hotline voicemail for us to listen to one of these days. So I encourage you guys to do the same. 202-670-1114. All right, not a whole lot to talk about this week, but I'm sure I'll find a way to blab myself to an extended episode anyway. So we'll get right into it very quick. I'm not gonna provide opinions on the situation going on in Minneapolis with the ICE shooting situation. You know how I feel about that stuff now. I'm not trying to get into political commentary and all the bullshit and what have you. All I'll say is this, just a friendly reminder to everybody that if this is what's flooding the news, the real story is happening behind the scenes. So don't get caught up in this like George Floyd 2.0 attempt here, because we got that suspect Venezuelan oil tanker that we seized, that there's rumor to that actually had weapons on it from Russia and not oil. There's the whole chaos in Iran. There's the whole chaos going on between China and Taiwan right now. All these things I think are what they're trying to cover up, because those two situations would absolutely involve the U.S. if they escalate even further into military action, operational action, stuff like that. So that stuff concerns me more on a personal level, mainly because it could involve our military and my friends. So again, all I'm saying is if every news organization, internet, TV is showing you one story, the real story is happening under the table and behind the scenes. So don't get caught up in the bullshit. All right, moving on. All right. I had this in my notes and it got deleted somehow. I don't know why, but I wanted to talk about the whole Matt Taylor, Kevin James situation I discussed a while back on the show. It was about the Instagram and TikTok page that says, it's called This is Matt Taylor. In the beginning, people thought it was a doppelganger of Kevin James, but we knew obviously ahead of time, the LPDS is always ahead of the curve, that it was really Kevin James and like what is he up to here? So we got some chaos going on upstairs. Stand by, folks. All right, sorry about that. My mom just brought back my nephew. He's staying the night again. Gonna fart on our couch and cause havoc the rest of the night. So that's what the chaos was going up upstairs and driving Randy crazy. You can see him in the background being a pain. Anyway, we talked about the Matt Tower situation. Well, he kept posting videos, mostly paintings. The last couple weeks, he's been posting little like teasers of going on a date with a lady and then getting more serious with these dates and stuff. And finally, he posted a video where he's in her classroom. I guess she's a fellow teacher, and he proposes to her. She says yes, and then within a couple days, the trailer for the movie Solo Mio comes out, which is the suspected movie that he was doing this whole character thing for because his name in the movie's Matt. This Instagram page is Matt Taylor, and it all lines up in the trailer. The summary of the synopsis of the movie, and I think I mentioned this already, is that he gets left at the altar at his wedding in Italy. He decides to stick around there for the honeymoon, and he goes on his adventures. And there's a whole how you doing with that. In the trailer specifically, there's mention he's wearing an Ed Sheeran shirt, and his pals in the movie asks him like, "Hey, what's up with the Ed Sheeran shirt?" And he's like, I just like Ed Sheeran. Why can't I like Ed Sheeran?" They have a little joke about it, but it lines up back with the Matt Taylor Instagram page that the only person he follows is Ed Sheeran on Instagram, and I think on TikTok too. So we all, again, this is all sort of obvious. People obviously figured out that this is not a doppelganger. This is Kevin James doing promotion, whatever. But I just want to mention two things real quick on that. One, I think it's an incredible PR marketing move, not just to promote the movie from a surface level, like as free advertising, but it gets you invested and connected with the character of the main character, Matt Taylor, his story, and it provides context of things that now the movie doesn't have to worry about providing during their hour and a half, 2 hours of film. And I'm sure you've noticed lately when it comes to movies, most of them are sequels and copy paste garbage, but they've been doing a terrible job with the screenplay as far as explaining things and providing context and context clues even. It's very it's shitty, for lack of a better term. They do it in a shitty way. It's they either rush a storyline or some context in there, or they put it so obvious that it's like, let us try to figure it. Like that's part of the process of enjoying a movie is interpreting the context for yourself sometimes, and letting us do that mental work that's enjoyable, at least to me anyway. And lately, movies have not been doing that. They've been. I always go back to the movie. I think it was called Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, where, spoiler alert, the guy's got split personalities. It's not really a spoiler because the first scene he's in with his therapist, there's like 5, 10 minutes or 20 minutes of you're not really sure what the hell's going on with the guy. Then he has a scene where he's with his therapist and she literally lays out the entire like plot of the story explicitly. And the way that conversation went was so unnatural and not real because this is a therapist he's been going to, so they have a relationship. So for her to mention this stuff in that conversation in that scene didn't make any sense. It was clearly to provide context to the audience, but it was in such a poorly done way that it was just like, this is not real. Now I'm not even invested in this. I'm disconnected now because she sat there and she's like, oh, we've been seeing each other for months now, and we both know that you have 23 different personalities that all do different things and they control each other, and the one really controlling it all is this guy, and we have to try to find a way to fight that guy. And it's like, you just we now we don't have to figure anything out. Where you just took the fun out of the whole thing. Now we know the entire movie. There's no twist ending like M. Night Shyamalan usually it's done in the past. There's no connection whatsoever. It's just, okay, got it. This guy's got 23. He's a split personality, and a couple of them are bad guys. Cool. Ruined the movie for me anyway. And I probably just ruined it for you, the people who haven't seen it and don't like spoilies. Sorry. But this whole maneuver builds the context for you. It's not explicitly saying anything. It didn't say, hey, Matt Taylor here. I'm about to get engaged. I sure hope she doesn't leave me at the altar or anything like that. It's all just, he never put out explicit advertisements for what this is. It was just videos of this art teacher doing art, talking about his life and love and landscapes and all this other stuff. And it's building the story for you. It's building the context. It's getting you invested in the whole story. And now you have weeks and months of story and context to connect with and be invested in, to know the story. Now when you go into the movie, you don't have to sit there and ask like what happened, who is she? How do they even meet? What, this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's all there for you in a really spectacular way, I think. I hope this sets the stage for how movies market in the future to get people invested. Even if you don't like the movie and you're not going to be invested yourself, other people will, I think. I think he's got like 300,000 or 400,000 followers on Instagram, the same on TikTok, and it's all free marketing. I mean, I'm sure they paid Kevin James and the other actors a little bit to do this ahead of time and the filming and all this stuff, but it's a lot cheaper than putting out ads and billboards and creating a bunch of different trailers and stuff like that. It's just setting up a phone and letting Kevin James be the character. And I think it's been great. So the second thing I wanted to mention, and this is a brag for us, because once again, the LPDS called it. Now, obviously, it was much more obvious later on after we discussed it here first. And it was almost a no-brainer after that point, where the more videos that were posted, the more obvious it was Kevin James doing a thing for a movie. But don't forget, never forget, we called it first. I believe I said the first time I talked about it was like, I've only seen one video of this, of a guy talking about like, hey, why does this guy look like Kevin James? Now, looking back now, that video could have been a plant. It could have been a guy working for the movie that they said, hey, make this video as if you're a guy who just happens to notice this to set the stage. Good on them if that was the case. Again, it's even more props to them for doing that if they did that. But we started following this Matt Taylor page when he had like 1,000 followers. Now he's at almost 400,000. We were grassroots. I was there. We were there. The first video posted on this guy's profile. And we did our recon, we did our digging, we called it before everybody else. And I know this show isn't as popular as some of the other shows out there who talked about it, and the other social media pages who have talked about it and got a lot more views and engagement, whatever. But you could go back to the tape. You could go back to the receipts. We were there first. The receipt says LPDS, then everybody else. Okay? We're still batting 900 plus. Okay? Our record is like nothing you've ever seen before. Still. You guys should also be proud of that. As proud as I am. Because it proves what we've been talking about this entire time, what we've always been teaching. Take the information in, critically analyze it all, identify second order effects of decisions and choices and answers and theories. Think for yourself, be thorough, be objective, make an assessment. It's proving our process works. Go find me somebody else in any other industry in history that is 900 plus batting average. You can't do it. You can't do it. So if you ever doubt, if you ever want to call me crazy or call anybody in the LPDS universe crazy for their theories and ideas, all I suggest you do is take the LPDS step back and just watch things unfold. Because eventually, what happens at the end of the day? You wait it out long enough, more information comes out, the outcome comes out, and you realize, damn it, the LPDS was right again. The guys I thought were crazy, this nut job who wears a sleeveless shirt in the winter, who I thought was a whack job jabroni, was right again. And that's not by accident. This is not luck. This is not insider information. This is just good old-fashioned critical thinking. That's it. And if there's ever a testimonial or proof that you need to convince somebody else that critical thinking is the best way to go, bring them to this show. Excuse me. Tell them to watch this show. Tell them to go back to the 5-6 years or whatever of this show and watch all the previous episodes, and the proof is right there in the pudding. The receipts are there. The credibility is there all the time. I don't care if people call us crazy. You shouldn't either. Because what happens at the end of the day? We're the ones who are right. We're the ones at the top. And it's lonely at the top. And I know it's hard for people. They don't want to be called crazy. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to be chastised or made fun of or looked down in a negative light. I get it. I get those feelings too. But I'd rather be right than liked. And that's what we do here at the LPDS. We get it right. Never forget that. Don't forget, though, to watch the movie. February 6th, I believe, Solo Mio comes out, and that's going to be the final stamp to prove we nailed it. We nailed it. Once again. So, anyway, moving on. What do we got here? Nothing to talk about on the Yankees. They're not doing anything still. So, I'm really excited about all the big moves that Cashman made. They made a half-ass offer to Cody Bellinger. Randy, stop whining. They made a half-ass offer to Cody Bellinger. Cody's agent Scott Boras, of course, wants more money and more years tacked onto that contract. I don't expect Cashman to do that. I don't necessarily think Cody Bellinger is good enough to warrant the numbers that he's asking for, but somebody will pay it in this day and age. Look what they did to Juan Soto. A 260 hitter who hits 30 to maybe 40 home runs a year, terrible in the outfield, and he got $765 million. So, good on him. Again, I say this 1,000 times. Good on him, but when he's getting that money, guys like Cody Bellinger are going to ask for high ticket items too. And I would argue Cody Bellinger is more valuable overall to a baseball team than Juan Soto is. But that's just me. Anyway, moving on. Giants situation. Um, two two quick things about the Giants. I want to talk about three quick things. First and foremost, the Giants are 8-30 in their last 38 games. 8-30 in their last 38 games. Four of those games that they won of those eight total, four of them were after they were mathematically eliminated from the playoff contention. And those games, the only thing that mattered in those games was draft order. If the Giants lost, they would have got higher draft picks. So the Giants basically only win when it hurts them. Okay? Second thing I want to talk about is the owner put out a statement saying that they're sticking with the GM, Joe Sheen, the guy who's behind all the terrible picks, who's behind the terrible coaching decisions, and basically the reason why they've been 8-38 or 8-30 the last 38 games. They're keeping him for some reason. All the good players that the Giants have right now are directly against what Joe Shane wanted. Dayball wanted Scatterboo and Dart and fought for them against Joe Shane's will, and they got those two guys. Same with Malik Neighbors. Somebody else on the coaching staff wanted Malik Neighbors. Joe Sheen wanted another receiver. So all the top players of the Giants, he had nothing to do with. In fact, he was against those guys, those picks. So if you have any expectations whatsoever that the Giants are going to be good or successful next year, don't have those expectations. It would be a fluke. Not because they're a terrible team altogether, but because they don't have the leadership to get them to where they need to go. The third thing I want to talk about is the coaching situation. They fired Daboll, obviously. Kafka was the stand-in. He's not going to stick around. And recently, a bunch of coaches got fired, namely John Harbaugh of the Ravens. Now, he's the favorite for the Giants to go after. Is he the favorite to get the job? I don't think so, because there are other teams out there that John Harbaugh probably would be better suited for and he would want to go to more than the Giants. But the Giants are going to go hard in the paint for John Harbaugh. I think they obviously should. But a couple sub things with that real quick. One, I want John Harbaugh for two reasons. One, he's a good coach, whether you like him or not. He's a good coach, and I think he'll see success. He'll help the Giants see some success despite having a terrible GM. Randy, stop whining. Jeez. Number two, Crazy Carol hates John Harbaugh. She hates the entire Harbaugh family. If there is one coaching family that she has talked about negatively more in the past 10, 15 years, it's the Harbaughs. She doesn't have a reason. She just thinks that they're a-holes and she doesn't like them. They're jerks and she hates them. And any chance she gets to root against the Harbaughs in any way, shape, or form, she does. So, for instance, the Steelers-Ravens game that occurred recently, which was a great game of ineptitude, she didn't know who to root for because she hates Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers because of what he did at the Jets, because apparently he was the reason the Jets stunk. And she hates John Harbaugh. So she didn't know who she wanted to lose more. So she didn't watch the game. That's how much she hates Harbaugh and apparently Aaron Rodgers. So I want them to pick Harbaugh because even though it would be a disaster for us to watch games with her every Sunday or even hear about them, the content would be electric. It would be absolutely electric content to know that Crazy Carol doesn't even know what to do because her team that she roots for now has her arch nemesis as the coach. The second reason I want that was the second reason, right? Yeah, he's a good coach, and that. Okay, all that aside, here's what I think is going to happen. Okay, I think Giants are going to go all in trying to get Harbaugh. They're going to half-ass the other options out there with the coaches that were active who just got fired. Kevin Stefanski is one of them. He just got fired from Cleveland. I don't think he's a bad coach at all. I think he's a good coach. I think the Cleveland Browns are just a historic dumpster fire of ownership and GM and all that, unfortunately, for any coach that coaches there or any player that plays there. Stefanski wants the job as the Giants with the Giants. He's expressed interest already explicitly, and he's a good coach. I think they're going to half-ass him. They're not going to pay attention to him. They're going to be all in on Harbaugh. Realistically speaking, Harbaugh should go to a different team. There are other teams with coach openings that he would be better suited. He should go to because that guy wants to win consistently and be competitive to win Super Bowls consistently, and it's not in New York. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to go all in on Harbaugh. He's going to go to another team. By the time they find that out, Stefanski's also going to be with another team because he can't sit and wait. Stop, Randy. Calm down. So he's going to be gone, and the Giants are going to have to settle for somebody like Fatso Kevin McCarthy or Mike McCarthy, whatever his name is, Mike McCarthy, who hasn't won and been successful as a coach in over a decade. I think he was the coach of the Packers when Aaron Rodgers won his only Super Bowl over a decade ago, I think it was. And then he's been a garbage fatso coach ever since. Just utterly disappointing in Green Bay, a nothing burger in Dallas, and now he's sitting on his fat ass doing nothing on the couch. And I know that the Giants have been talking about bringing in McCarthy for a long time now, ever since they fired Daboll. I don't understand why, because he stinks, and I don't know why they thought he was the only available coach that they can go after. Because there are plenty of options out there that I would go over Kevin McCarthy or Mike McCarthy, whatever his fatso name is. I would love John Gruden to be there. I would make a play for who's the coach in Detroit? Dan something? Whoever, I forgot his name. I would go for that coach, even though he's firmly set with the Lions, and he's a great coach, should be there. I love that guy. I would make a play for him and try to convince him to switch over to the Giants before I picked up Fatso on the recliner. You might as well just hire me as the coach at that point. So that's what I think is going to happen. I would love to be wrong on this one. I would love for the LPDS to drop their batting average down and be wrong on this one because I don't want Mike McCarthy as the coach. I'll take anybody else. Well, not anybody else, but not him. So, anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Now, finally, let's get into the good stuff. Let's step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Hot Dog Fingers. Are you looking for a new tasty snack to have for NFL playoff time or when you're at an event and just tired of the same old chicken tenders they offer everywhere? Then get yourself Tony Rigatoni's all-new Hot Dog Fingers. Tony's HDFDs are the latest craze that combines the crispy coating of a fried chicken tendy with the delicious mystery meat of a ballpark glizzy. Simply take them out of the reusable sack, pop them in a microwave or a toaster oven, and be enjoying a couple of hot dog fingies with mustard or catsup in no time. So to get a bag of hot dog fingies today, visit the freezer burned items section of your local grocery store, and if you use the promo code disgusting piece of shit at checkout, you get 29% off your first bag of hot dog fingers. I'm actually surprised nobody has made that yet. I'm actually surprised nobody has breaded a hot dog and deep fried it like a chicken tender, not a corn dog, not cornbread coating, crispy fried chicken coating, like KFC breading on a hot dog. Can't believe that's not a thing yet. It's also, that's not pigs in a blanket either. Let's not get confused there too. So anyway, go check those out. Stupid shit. All right, the cage fact. All right, Randy, calm down, buddy. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay, Bally. Yeah. All right. The cage fact, January 7th, the great one's birthday. So this is more so just a happy birthday to the great one. For all those who forgot, January 7th is Nic Cage's birthday, and he's still going strong. He has not let up. You would never know he's in his mid 60s. It's crazy. The guy is just a force to be reckoned with. So happy birthday to the great one. I do want to pose a question to you guys out there as we continue to move forward into the cage in the future. I was thinking about changing things up a bit in a more interactive way. And I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do that or even if it's worth doing it. But I was thinking about doing sort of a Nic Cage trivia for Into the Cage stuff for times that uh he doesn't have a movie coming out, which I don't he always has a movie coming out, so that won't be for a while. But just to spice things up and get more fan interaction, I was considering doing something like a Nic Cage trivia, Nic Cage movie trivia, or just Cage in general trivia, where I pose a question and then I'll put it out onto the socials, LPDS socials, Facebook and Instagram, for you guys to put in your guesses and stuff. And then the next week's episode, when we step into the cage, I'll give the answer to the previous week's, and then we'll go into the next question, possibly. Want to get your thoughts on that. I'm going to hopefully try to remember to put that up in Instagram and Facebook to pose a question to you guys. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Yay or nay? And we'll kind of go from there. If you do have your own thoughts, you want to call on the hotline to let me know, 202-670-1114. Feel free to let me know there because I think that would be fun, a fun way to keep you guys engaged, to have me looking, doing further deep dives into Nic Cage movies and finding cool trivia facts and identify new facts that maybe we don't know about. There's still a lot of movies of Nic Cage I haven't seen yet, and I'm sure there's wild Cage facts in there that people just aren't talking about yet. So this might be a good way to do that. And maybe if it gets more popular as we get down the road, I can start offering some sort of prizes for, the best win percentage of people who are getting the questions right, what have you, something like that. Anyway, we'd love to get your thoughts on that. But that's the Cage fact. So there you go. You're welcome. I don't know if you guys are hearing this. They're doing some sort of hammering upstairs. Ah, this, you're never, there's never a dull moment here in the motherland back home. So anyway, move over to the Junction. We'll spin the logo up. I don't have a lot. This is more of a potpourri episode, if you will. I just wanted to give you guys some stories of what's been going on the past week or so. I'm actually almost happy my nephew's here. That sounded terrible. I like visiting. My nephew visited, but I'm happy he's here because he likes, and I'm ratting him out here. I don't care. He likes to sneak cookies, especially at night because he sleeps on the couch in the living room, and of course my old man stays up all night on the recliner. So when my dad conks out, my nephew likes to go into the kitchen and sneak cookies. And I know this for a number of reasons. One, there's crumbs everywhere. He's almost like Sticks was when Sticks was a kid, where he leaves evidence. He'd be a terrible criminal, just leaves evidence everywhere. So there's crumbs. Two, he leaves the bags open. Okay. And I'm a stickler for closing bags of treats like that because I don't want them to get stale or hard and almost inedible. So I close the bag so I have to keep the air out as best as possible. He doesn't do that. Okay. So there's crumbs, cookies are missing from the bag. If you don't think I don't know how many cookies are in the house, you're wrong. Uh, and and he leaves the bag open so they get stale. The the third reason I know he's been stealing cookies is because he forgot a number of times the last time he was spending a couple nights here that I was also awake and upstairs watching movies with him. We were watching Back to the Futures and Rockies. He starts going over to the kitchen to sneak cookies, and I go, "What are you doing over there, buddy?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing. I forgot you were up." I was like, "I'm sitting next to you. How did you forget? You had to walk past me to go do your dastardly deed." He's like, "Well, I wasn't doing anything, so it's no big deal. I just wanted to get some water and some air." Like, get back and stop eating my cookies. Now, in all reality, I'm happy that he's eating them, even though he's not supposed to be because my sister gets mad. But our house is flooded with sweets right now. Okay? From the holidays, the pre-holidays, even from Thanksgiving on through New Year's, and then visiting family and all this stuff, having late Christmas get-togethers and this and that with family. It's been an entire section of the counter in my parents' kitchen is all cookies and cakes and pastries and stuff. And I don't want my parents eating all that. It's unhealthy for them at this point. They can't afford to. They're dealing with their own medical issues that they got to get taken care of. They can't afford to be spending the majority of their caloric intake on this crap. On the other hand, we come from a very depression era mindset, as you know, where you don't want to waste food. You can't, that is the worst thing you can waste is food because that you need that for sustenance. And there could be a time, and if you're still depression era mindseted, I don't know if that's the word it is now. There could be a time where that's all you have to eat are those cookies. So you want to save them as long as possible. You never want to waste food. There are starving people all over the world that would kill for that. So now I have to eat all these cookies to keep my parents healthy. I have to risk my own life. And just when I think I'm making a dent and a bag is gone and I got only a few left, we have another visit of somebody and another batch of cookies or cakes or pies hits the island, and now I'm back to square one. And I'm doing all my workouts from home these days, not going to the gym because I'm spending more time on Spearhead. So I'm doing workouts back here in the Bowflex and a lot of push-ups and pull-ups and body weight exercises and stuff. I can only do so many push-ups in a day. In fact, it's getting worse because my blood is getting thick and I'm getting fat from the cookies and I'm slowing me down. And I'm gonna have to start going on ice cold runs outside to burn off this stuff because I'm dying now. And I just want people to understand this. If I go early, this likely could be the reason why. Come back to these episodes and then you'll remember, oh, he died saving his parents. He had to eat all this crap food and these sweets and the loaves of bread that they have in the freezer for no reason whatsoever to save them. And he made the ultimate sacrifice. So I am happy that my nephew is here trying to make a dent. I wish he would do it in a cleaner manner and not and clean up after himself and close the bags afterwards. But I'm happy that I'm not the only one who's taking these desserts down. I'm also happy that it's my parents aren't doing it either. I mean, they're having some every once in a while, but I'm monitoring their situations. So anyway, moving on. I there's no real story behind this, but I just thought it was funny. Um, my dad gets, for whatever reason, he gets cuts easily on his around, on his skin. I'm not entirely sure why, but when he gets cuts, he's been on blood thinners for a long time for his heart and all this other stuff. So he tries not to bleed because you bleed more when your blood is thinner when you're on blood thinners like that. So he tries to avoid that, but for whatever reason, he gets cuts easily on his skin. So when if my dog runs by him and whacks him with the tail, he'll likely get a cut on his leg. Or if he hits the side of a table, he's getting a cut. For some reason though, my dad calls all his cuts wounds. Now, I think on the technicality, that's correct. They are wounds, but he talks about these cuts like they're just you just put a band-aid on them, put some Neosporin, whatever antibacterial or whatever stuff to keep him healthy so he doesn't get an infection, bandages them up, and he's good to go. But he talks about them like these are combat wounds. Like he needs a medic to give him a quick hit of morphine, throw that blood clotting powder on him, and then gauze him up and wrap him up and get him back out there onto the D-Day battlefront. And I don't know why he calls him that, and I don't know why it makes me laugh thinking about. I just think like when I hear him call them wounds, in my head I'm picturing a guy who thinks he's in war, but he's still wearing his flannel shirt and his sweatpants that the drawstring is broken, so he has to hold them up like a burlap sack. And he's just in a random trench warfare situation. And he's asking, hey, do you guys know where the medic is? I have these wounds here. I need bandaged up so I can get back in the fight. And he's got one hand on his sweats and one hand on his pistol, and he's got his helmet is too big for him. It's not strapped to him, and he's just walking around like this. Hey, does anybody have gauze and morphine for my wounds? And then when you find out how he gets these wounds, it's like, oh yeah, the dog's tail hit me too hard and it cut my leg open. Or I got a rug burn and I put my flannel on and the flannel was too rough and it opened up the cut. And that's it. Those were the wounds. And I don't know why it makes me laugh, but JPL3 is dealing with some wounds. So, anyway, moving on. You guys can tell probably today, but the new dungeon situation, even though the ceiling tiles are in now and everything is good to go, it's still very thin between the dungeon ceiling and the floor upstairs. So you can hear everything going on. And for some reason, my parents love to have the TV on so loud that you can hear everything going on with whatever show they're watching outside in the yard. When I take the dog out, I know what episode of The Crown that they're on. Um, I, they're losing their hearing. My dad takes his hearing aid out when he's watching TV, and they're blasting. Well, I had to do several re-recordings of Spearhead content because when I go in post and listen, you can hear the entire show in the background. And that's not good for two reasons. One, I can't put that out there because I can't have people distracted by listening to the background music and noise of the television upstairs while I'm trying to teach a concept or whatever it is I'm doing with Spearhead stuff. And two, I'm not trying to get dinged with copyright infringement because of the audio in the background. I've gotten dinged in the past on LPDS not financially penalized, but I've gotten warnings from YouTube. I did an episode with Bonji a couple years ago at his house in Georgia, and in the background we had the Yankee game on. No sound, but just the video in the background. And because the MLB logo was on there, Rob Manfred hates anybody using MLB content ever to try to, even if it's to try to grow the game and get the fans, to want to watch baseball more. He hates it because it could take $10 out of his pocket, his money grubbing pocket. So we got dinged for that. I've got dinged in the past for having audio clips that were too long without being stopped or without commentary in the middle. And YouTube always changes their rules on how many seconds of uninterrupted copyright audio is allowed before you get dinged for copyright infringement. Now, right now, that doesn't affect me too bad necessarily. Like, it doesn't hurt my pocket. They're not taking money away from me because I'm not making money on this stuff just yet. But it will eventually take money from my pocket. And also, if I get enough strikes, they're going to pull my stuff from YouTube. And I made about 5 or 6 spearhead pieces of content that all had that crap in there. So that's 5 pieces of content that theoretically could eventually make money for the business in the future that had to be redone. Because if I left them out in there, I get none of that. All that's gone, and I could be getting strikes for it. So I've been having to try the timing of, even if they're home, knowing when, like, oh, well, my dad's in his office right now, and my mom is it's nap time for her, or she's going to go for a walk outside, and I know the TV's not going to be on. I have to get creative with when I record stuff for those reasons. So it's been interesting to say the least. I'm not complaining about it in a way that, like, oh, my parents are so annoying, they just don't get it. It's just another sort of funny hurdle and just a funny little add-on to the circus act that is staying here for 2 months at a time. So I just thought it'd be funny to share that. The last thing I want to talk about, another quick anecdote for you guys, and then we'll wrap it up here. When I'm not hitting sticks with the gang at night, I don't necessarily stay down here in the dungeon to watch TV when I'm up, because I'm restricted to what channels are available down here. I have to go everything through the Xbox. I don't have YouTube TV. I don't necessarily like sitting and streaming stuff all night. Again, as you know, I am a background noise kind of guy when it comes to TV. So I'll usually just put something on a TV station as background noise. Whatever's on is on, commercials, what have you, all that, and I can do my own thing and also pop into the show, whatever's on TV at the time, or maybe it's something I've seen before. My father already does that upstairs in the living room, so if I'm not down here doing stick stuff, I usually at night have been hanging out up there and watching whatever he puts on. Now, I think I've discussed this in the past, but just as a refresher for everybody, this is how JPL runs his nighttime TV watching process. Okay? It's after he eats, he's in his pajamas. I say pajamas, it's really just whatever flannel and sweat combination he can get his hands on. And he hits the recliner, and he's got remote in hand. He usually ends up resting on his stomach in his hand still. And he has, about 4 channels he rotates through the majority of the time. Okay, I don't exactly remember what channels they are, but it's I think it's like the Nick at Night or TV Land channel, because they play everyone loves Raymond reruns. So we'll hit ELR constantly. If it's earlier in the night when we're eating dinner, my mom's still awake, whatever channel has Blue Blood reruns on, we'll put that on as well, because she's a big Selleck fan. I don't blame her. So he'll have that for Raymond. If there's a game on, he'll add that to the mix to get the game going. And then he'll have another black and white channel, which is like a TCM, Turner Classic Movies. So there's a movie black and white channel that also plays westerns at night. And then there's the channel that also has old TV shows like Perry Mason. He's a big Perry Mason fan. If you don't know who that is, go look him up. He was he's an attorney, a defense attorney, and that's the show is about. He's defending all these people. There's always a twist at the end, and for whatever reason, the person he's defending is always innocent, and the real criminal, the real culprit, happens to also be in the courthouse at the same time. For whatever reason, all these criminals and murderers and thieves and stuff are just they like to watch their case unfold in front of them, and then they sit there and Perry Mason just goes at the end. He's like, it was actually this guy who was the killer, and he points to the guy in the courthouse, and the guy's like, and then he tries to run away. Like, dude, you're in a courthouse that's surrounded by cops. Why would you come and watch your own case if you're the bad guy? So anyway, I like the show though. It's a good show, old black and white style. So he'll usually watch that. And then there's the other station that plays NCIS New Orleans reruns. And we're both big fans of that show. That's the NCIS I actually enjoy the most. I have it at home on my TV at home. I have all the episodes there myself. So I'll watch those with him all the time. So I don't mind the stuff that he puts on. The the issue I have is when he puts on a random channel out of cycle. Sometimes he gets a little crazy depending on the night. He thinks maybe there's a movie on this station. He'll switch to that station and see if there's anything good on. And if there is, we'll add that to the mix for the night. And that's fine. If there's not, he'll take it out and we're back to the big four, essentially big four or five stations. The problem with the old man's process is you have about a 30 to 60-second window of him actually being awake once he changes that channel. And then within that minute tops, he's back asleep, out cold, head tilted down like this if you're watching the YouTube land, and he's got the remote clutched to him. So whatever's on that channel, that's what we're watching for the next 30 minutes or so until he wakes up again. Now, he's been getting a little better about putting the remote on the little side, the end table, because he knows, like, I'm going to fall asleep and I have the ability to change the channel while he's sleeping. But if he changes to a rogue station and there's a commercial on, so we don't know what movie it's going to be, but by the time that movie comes on, he's already asleep. So I'm hoping it's a good movie. Well, a couple nights ago, this bastard puts on like TNT or something. I don't know why he chose it, because he uses the guide on the TV to look for the channel and you can see what's playing. Well, on TNT that night was fucking Morbius with Jared Leto. The one that was so bad, the memes were nuts for that movie, talking about it's Morbin time and all the terrible quotes and stuff from that movie. Just a god-awful movie from start to finish. Storyline, screenplay, script, everything. Dog shit. I don't know why he decided to put that on. He knows that's not a movie that would be good. Randy, stop crying. What a baby. But he put it on. It was a commercial break. By time the movie came on, he's out cold, remote clutched to his hand. And now I'm sitting there once again in a situation where I can either sit for 30 plus minutes, maybe even longer, and watch this stupid ass Morbius movie, or I can try to wake him up in a way that's going to wake him up without giving him a heart attack or a stroke. So now I'm doing this thing again. Ah, I'm clapping. Oh, I'm trying to get Randy involved. Randy, come on over here, but don't cut his leg. Don't give him any more open wounds. Let's figure this. We got to figure this out. And I'm trying to get him up. Now I'm trying to sneak the remote out of his hand, like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, coming down from over the top to sneak down and grab the remote without waking him up and giving him a stroke. And I don't know what to do. Luckily, I was able to. I don't know what happened. I think maybe like a light clicked on, like an automatic light clicked on or off in the living room, and that woke him up. That startled him just enough to pop him back into consciousness without requiring a defibrillator. And then he looks at the TV. He's like, "Ah, what the hell is this?" I was like, "You put it on. This movie stinks." He's like, "I don't know why I put it on." Randy. So he was able to change it, in a timely fashion, and we were able to get it changed. But I just thought it was a funny situation, and of course, nobody else was around. It would have been even funnier if my nephew was here because we could have been joking about it. Because he also thinks Morbius stinks because he's a superhero movie fan. So he knows how stinky Morbius is. So that would have been funny. My mom doesn't know the movie, so I don't know if she would have got the same laugh. She probably would have been annoyed that we're watching some stupid movie that she doesn't know about and we can't change it. But um, that's the situation at night. I'll give you another quick example. We were watching recently the Indiana versus Oregon football game. Indiana smashed Oregon. It wasn't even close, so it wasn't that big a deal that we missed most of the game. But my dad flipped the channel to Raymond, and then King of Queens came on right after everyone loves Raymond. So not mad about that. But an hour goes by. He wakes up and he's like, "What's the score?" I go, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, what the hell are we watching?" I go, "We're watching whatever you put on before you conked out again. That's what we're watching." Luckily, it was something good this time. And by the time we got back to the game was 30 minutes over by that at that point. Like I said, luckily it was a blowout, so it didn't really matter. We already knew what was going to happen, but that's the dance we dance in the nighttime, entertainment portion of the evening at the Libretti household. So that's what I've been dealing with. But it's still better than coming down and trying to figure out what channels work down here in the dungeon. It's usually just Hallmark, and maybe I could sneak in something else. So I much rather the entertainment value of like the game of chance. Like, what are we gonna watch? What am I gonna watch for 10 minutes of? What TV show am I only gonna catch 35% of before we switch to another TV show that he promises he'll switch back to, but he never does. So you never know what ends up happening at the end of the show. What are we gonna do? What's gonna happen that night? Now I've seen about the same 35% of an episode of NCIS New Orleans 12 times since I've been here, and I still haven't watched the end. Now I've seen those shows before, those episodes, so I know what happens, but that's what you get. I've seen the same episode probably three or four times. I don't replay them that often. 12 times, that was an exaggeration. But I've seen the beginning of that episode three or four times, and I can never get to the end because he'll change it on commercials. He's not a commercial guy. If a commercial pops up and he's awake, he's changing it to something else. So I have about 35% of NCIS New Orleans. I have about 50% of the latest Perry Mason. I have another 12% of a John Wayne film. And then by the time we get back to NCIS New Orleans, new episodes on. So I have all this wonderful TV show and movie trivia for about 20 total percent of those TV shows or movies. Technically, I could say, yeah, I've seen Rio Bravo with John Wayne. But when they asked me like, what was your favorite part? It's like I only have two parts to choose from, unfortunately. And hopefully one day we flip a channel and we get to watch the rest of it, but that's a gamble. We're playing remote roulette with the big guy. But I want to caveat this all at the end here. I'm not complaining. I can easily just choose to drive home at any point if I wanted to. I'm not complaining. I just think it's funny, and I want to bring you guys into the fold to kind of continue connecting with you and to kind of let you know what's going on here in the LPDS universe, here in the motherland, here in the not the house that Ruth built, certainly not Babe Ruth, but it's again never a dull moment. Never a dull moment, and I'm enjoying my time here. It's been fun. And I know you guys have your stories with your parents. I know you can relate in some way, shape, or form. So if you have any stories that are comparable, feel free to hit us up in the hotline about it, 202-670-1114. I'm always here for those stories. I know some of my friends have had their in-laws stay with them for weeks at a time for various reasons. So I know you have similar stories. They might be a little bit more frustrating, but I know you share the sentiment of being an adult, staying for an extended period of time with your parents again. And basically it's almost like you're a kid again because you have no control over what's going on around you. So that's all I got to say about that. And it's good timing too because the chaos is ever increasing upstairs, and Randy's about to have a heart attack if he doesn't get up there to assess the situation. But before we go, very quickly, the big three, the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, being able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. Do one thing every day to improve your physical, mental, or emotional health, wellness, and fitness. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. Get out of the negative. Stop getting roped into whatever social media and TV is telling you to care about and be angry about and be divisive about. Don't get roped into people being shitty online to you or just in general. You taking that jab back at them might give you a quick couple seconds of dopamine, like, yeah, I got him, but it's not fulfilling at all. It keeps you in that negative state, and you can't survive in that negative state. You can't be happy and fulfilled and content in life living in the negative like that. So take that LPDS step back when the opportunity arises. Take a deep breath and remove yourself from those situations so that you minimize the negativity in your world and you provide yourself the capacity to go focus on more positive, productive things like exercising. Number three, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you can do this by every time a negative situation happens, you can refocus your brain to thinking about something good that's happened to you in your life or in the last 24 hours even, and thinking about what your life would be like without that thing. And that will immediately put you in the state of gratitude. And it'll be a lot easier to remove yourself from the negative situations when you're in a state of gratitude. And then you'll have the capacity to go focus on more positive, productive things with your life, like exercising. And if you do these three things a little bit each and every day, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends and enemies and put your notifications on and hit that hotline 202-670-1114. I love the hotline calls. As you know, I'm always going to try to plug hotline calls. It's free for you to call in. If you don't want to be named, you can let me know. Keep it anonymous, whatever you want. 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.